If you've just recently been introduced to the idea of low content publishing as a business model, you are probably super excited about its potential, and frankly, you should be. This is the exact business model that's generated $500,000 for me, allowing me to pay back $45,000 worth of debt, walk away from an unfulfilling job as an art director working in advertising, and ultimately get me to this place where I can now help others like you create similar success. One of the questions I get asked regularly is, how long is it going to take for me to start making money on KDP? Now, the answer is going to be different for everyone depending on your current skill sets, the amount of time you have to pursue this as a business model, and of course, your willingness to be patient while learning the whole process. But there are ways that you can speed up the process and experience success faster. One of those ways is to focus only on what's going to move the needle forward and to stop wasting time and money on tasks that really aren't directly going to contribute to your bottom line. So that's what we're talking about today, the things you absolutely must do when starting out as a low content publisher, as well as the things that are just a complete waste of time and money and are likely just going to have you quitting the entire endeavor before you make your first dollar. Welcome, I'm Rachel Harrison-Sun, and I help entrepreneurs create profitable online businesses so that they can make more money and live more life. If that sounds like you, do subscribe and be sure to hit the bell. That way you're going to be notified every time I put out one of these videos, which is each and every Monday. So first, let's go over what not to do when you're first starting out as a low content publisher. So this is going to be all the busy work that keeps you feeling like you're doing something, but in reality is just a way to procrastinate and keep you from doing the thing that is actually going to start making you money, which is actually creating and publishing low content books. So first, registering a legal entity. Now, doing this can be really costly and it shouldn't be done until you're sure of two things. First, that low content publishing is a viable business model for you, so you've generated consistent sales over a period of time, and that it's something that you enjoy and can see yourself doing over the long haul. This is a mistake that I personally made when I first got into online business, and the result was I spent something like $500 on a business that ultimately went absolutely nowhere, and I didn't make a dime. You can check out that story here if you're interested. Now, hold off on registering an official business until you know that you're going to make money and you know you're going to keep at it for the foreseeable future. Now, along those same lines and for the same reasons, don't apply for any trademarks until you're actually making money. So trademarks can be super expensive and they're just not necessary unless a name or a phrase that you're using proves itself to be a valuable asset that's going to benefit from that sort of protection. Next up on the list of time wasters is building a website. Now, a website is really only going to be useful if it gets traffic, and absolutely no one is going to find your website until you put effort into driving traffic to it, either through SEO or ads. So in the beginning, you really don't want to be spending half your time trying to drive traffic to a website when you could be using that time to create and publish books, which is what is actually going to bring money through the front door. So if you eventually do include your URL inside your book, you might start generating some traffic that way, but it's not going to happen until you start selling books. Now, the only exception here is if you already have a website and it's just going to be easy for you to create a page to house all of your books, but it's not really the place that you should start. All right, next up, creating a logo. Now, a logo is a great way to add some legitimacy and visual consistency to your brand, but you don't need to spend time on this right at square one before you've made any sales, especially if you're experimenting with multiple pen names and you'd need to create multiple logos. Now, once you've had a few sales and you're seeing some traction, you can and probably should create a logo. This doesn't have to be a complex job. You can keep it really simple. You can even just create a logo in Canva using one of their templates. So check out this video here if you are ready to do a logo and you want to learn how to create one in Canva. All right, next is spending time with social media. So similar to a website, social media only works if you have followers. So unless you already have unless you're already a known entity with followers, it's not the best use of your time to start a social media account for your brand right off the bat. Now, definitely use your personal social media accounts to promote your books if you have any. Now, once you've started making some sales and you think you can come up with a worthwhile social media strategy, then go ahead and consider it. But again, not before validating low content publishing as a viable business model for you first. Now, finally, don't get into Amazon advertising before you've got a handle on the publishing process. Ads are another beast entirely, and they're meant to amplify your success, not create out of thin air. Ads can be an absolute money pit if you don't know how to effectively use them. So unless you already have experience running ads elsewhere, I'd wait until you at least start making a few sales here and there, just so that you know you've at least got your foundation in place before you go ahead and start learning that new skill of Amazon ads. Now, those are the time and money wasters to avoid right at the beginning of things. Now let's talk about the one thing you should be doing when starting out as a brand new low content publisher. Do absolutely nothing but create and publish books. When you first start out, you should be doing absolutely nothing but researching, designing, and publishing books. This is the only way to find out if low content publishing is a viable business model for you, meaning that you can actually make any money doing this. Now, I know there are others out there that say that absolutely anyone can make big money publishing low content books, but the real truth is that this isn't for everyone, and that's totally okay. Because I do believe that everyone out there is capable of achieving success. You just have to spend a little time figuring out if this is the exact business model that resonates with you and your skill set, and if this is the most viable business model for you out of all the business models out there that exist. And just getting in there and publishing books, that's the only way you're going to learn the process, see if it's really for you, and if it is, improve on your skills over time. So at this stage, everything else is a complete waste of time. Now, I suggest giving yourself a set period of time to experiment with low content publishing and just to determine whether it's a viable business model for you. Once that trial period is over, ask yourself a few questions. Do I enjoy spending my time this way? Now, if we're honest, most of us will admit that we got into low content publishing because we heard we could make a lot of money doing it. And, there's totally nothing wrong with that. But you do need to enjoy the work. If you don't enjoy the work, it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to commit to over the long haul. Overnight success is rarely the reality, and this business model takes significant time and effort to start seeing significant results. So, even though you can start generating passive income in the first few days of getting going, to reach income amounts of hundreds or thousands of dollars a month, it is going to take some serious work. So ask yourself, is this something that you can see yourself doing 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now? After that trial period, also ask yourself if you're actually making money. Remember, if you're not making money, you've got a hobby on your hands, not a business. So if several months of solid effort go by and you haven't made any sales, this might not be the business model for you. That's okay, you've still got lots of other avenues. Now, on the other hand, after you've generated your first sale, you've just proven to yourself that you're capable of creating something and selling it online. And from there on out, it's just a matter of refining your process and honing your skill. Remember this, if you can learn how to make $1 online, you can learn how to make $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000, and so on. So how long of a trial period should you give yourself in order to be able to answer these questions? That's up to you, but I think somewhere probably around the 3 months mark, so 3 months of consistent effort, it's probably going to be enough time to try this model on for size and validate its money-making potential for you. Now, if you have already been at this for a while and you're wondering whether or not you should quit or keep going, you can check out this video here on knowing when to quit or persevere. Now, one bonus tip, don't commingle your personal and business finances. This makes bookkeeping challenge and it can be a nightmare at tax time. Once you start making a few sales, and probably only after you start making a few sales, separate your finances by opening a dedicated bank account for your business. And then once you've got some monthly cash flow occurring, you're going to want to start taking your expenses from this account as well. So if you're buying any software or any office expenses, advertising costs, etc. And then you're also going to want to ensure that you've got a bookkeeping system in place. When you're first starting out, you can go ahead and just use a simple spreadsheet. The main thing is you just want to keep things simple and streamlined and organized for tax time because you don't want to be spending hours sifting through that crap, personal versus business transactions, trying desperately to accurately report your income and expenses. I had a total nightmare with this a few years back. I was trying to reconcile transactions from like 2 or 3 years previous. I had to hire an accountant to help me straighten it all out, and it took hours of me sitting on the phone. I think I spent something like $500 trying to get it all done. So it was totally painful. Don't do that. All right, there you have it. Now you know the one thing you should be focusing on, which is creating and publishing books, and you're not going to be tempted to procrastinate with any of the busy work that's actually going to keep you from making money. If you want to learn more about low content publishing, I invite you to download my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low Content Book in Less Than a Day. You'll find a link to that down in the description below. You can also check out my free Low Content Profits Facebook group, and be sure to check out this video next for what to do if you have been at this for a while and your books just simply aren't selling. If you like this video, hit the like button. Please subscribe, share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.